Hi, Miss Montan's class. My name is Ethan Rutherford, and I'm going to be reading John the Bear and the Mudslide. John is halfway through hibernation. When John hears something, he gets up to see what it is. It's a mudslide. Run. He runs as fast as he can, but he got caught in the mudslide. He hits a big rock. He gets knocked out. 3 hours later, he wakes up to see he is lost miles away from home. He is by a river. He catches 3 fish for dinner. He sleeps by the river. He is awake at 5 a.m., ready for the journey ahead. But first, his breakfast. John catches 5 fish. He is now ready for a big adventure. He comes to a valley. He is happy. He sees his favorite flower. He is walking for 20 miles. When he is tired, he decides to take a nap. He will have lunch after a nap. He wakes up at 7. He is rested. He is ready to find a new home. He sees one right on the top of a hill with a river. The river has fish in it. At last, he finds a new home. Now he can hibernate. The end. Now, this is my cover for John the Bear and the Mudslide. There's John the Bear. There's another character there. And this little brown area is the mudslide, and the river, of course. And I'm going to be reading my version of the story. The sun is shining through the densely packed, snow-covered evergreens. The early morning sun is bright. The sky is a rose pink, getting oranger closer to the golden disk that is the sun. Although the sun is up and shining brightly, it's bitterly cold. In a clove of tall evergreens there is a cave. Not a dark cave, but a light cave filled with plants. There are holly bushes, blueberry bushes, and other types of berry bushes that line the cave. In the center of the cave is a bed of soft moss, and on top of the moss is a bear curled up in a ball. His name is John, and he is in the middle of hibernation. As he sleeps through the winter, he dreams of warm weather and summer days fishing in his favorite river. He also dreams of berry bushes weighted down by big fat berries that are very sweet and warmed by the sun. John is dreaming of catching a fat and juicy salmon when something brings him back to consciousness. What was it, he thought? Who would think to wake a sleeping bear? John gets up to investigate the noise, which is becoming louder. John stretches as the rock goes flying past the opening of the cave. He becomes very alarmed. But John's annoyance quickly turns to fear as the ground begins to tremble beneath his feet. John quickly runs out of the cave, looks left. He sees nothing for a moment, and his fear diminishes. But out of the corner of his right eye, John sees more rocks coming his way, and so he starts to run. He runs as fast as a big bear can, who just woke up from hibernation. But it's no use. As he turns his head mid-stride to see the mudslide has gained more ground. Oh no, John says to himself, I'm doomed. John continues to run, going faster than he normally would because he's running downhill. Once again, John looks behind him to see if he has gotten out of danger, but he hasn't made any progress. John turns his head to face forward again, but slams into a huge rock, knocking himself out cold. As he lay there unconscious, the mudslide comes closer and closer. Just as it looks like it's over for John the Bear, a gray, spidery hand grabs John and pulls him up on top of the rock he hit. The gray and spidery hand grabs John again, but this time he is tossed on top of the mudslide, where he rides it like a wave while unconscious. 3 hours pass and John comes to. When he opens his eyes, he sees an expansive river. The water is so calm and so blue that it looks like a turquoise stone he could just walk across. There are no ripples on the water because there is no wind blowing, making the water look solid. John sat up against a tree near the edge of a sandy shore and thinks about how nice and how peaceful the world can be. As he sits there, he tries to remember how he got there and why he is here. Sitting there, John watches a fish swim, which makes him very hungry, so he goes down to the water to catch some. After an hour of wading around in the shallows, John manages to catch 3. Each fish was about a foot long. John hauls his catch up to the shore to have some dinner. He sits against the same tree he woke up next to. Before he sat down, though, he laid down a nice layer of soft moss. Still a little woozy from hitting the rock, John decides to go back to sleep for a while. Once again, John wakes up because of noises around him. This time, John gets up to look around. He notices that the sun is just about to break the horizon, so he knows that it's early morning. Around 5 o'clock, John looks out towards the blue river to see a shadowy figure jumping and splashing in the water. John calls out, "Who's there?" The figure stops splashing to look at John, who is now standing hidden behind trees. "What do you want?" John calls out to the humanoid figure, staring at him intently. The creature makes his way towards John, clambering over rocks and driftwood. The creature is pale, as John sees in the early morning sunlight, and it's coming closer to John. John begins to see the features of the creature. He's so pale he's almost ghostly in appearance, and so skinny he appears to be a skeleton. He's closer now, in the early morning sunlight. John sees his face. John's fear is now diminishing because he realizes that the creature is so small that he can easily tower over him. The creature stands in front of John, staring up at him as though they are old friends who haven't seen each other in many years. "What do you want?" "Who are you?" John asks. "I am Smeagol," the creature replies. "I swear to do whatever you want." John has no idea where the Smeagol came from, but he starts to get annoyed. The staring is getting to him, and he just wants to go home and sleep. "Where are we?" John asks. "We're at the edge of the wood, far from danger," replies Smeagol. "But I would like to go home now," John says. Smeagol beams after John says he wants to go home, secretly plotting to take him anywhere but his home. Smeagol leads John into the forest once again, but they are walking in the opposite direction from where the mudslide first brought them. Smeagol leads John deep into the forest, and they end up walking for 20 miles. John is becoming quite tired, and his legs are burning from the constant motion. John calls out to Smeagol, "Hey, stop. Let's rest for a while." Smeagol comes running back to John, saying, "No, we can't stop yet." Even though John is tired, he allows Smeagol to lead on. They have walked so far and so long that they walked clear out of the forest and into the Sahara Desert. John, who was so tired from walking, didn't even notice the changing scenery. After another hour of walking, John slumps to the ground in exhaustion. Smeagol rushes over to him to pull him back into the rhythm of walking, but John is already asleep. John wakes up at 7 to see the sun still shining brightly, even though it's winter. Smeagol notices that John is now awake once again, and they continue their journey. Smeagol pulls John up to his feet, and they set off. While walking, John says that since Smeagol dragged him all this way, he needs to help him find a new home. It took John 30 minutes of arguing with Smeagol to convince him to help him find a new home. Up ahead in the distant horizon there was a green patch, wavy because of the heat of the desert sun. John gets excited and hurries his pace to see what the green blur could be. As they make their way toward the green blur, which has gotten considerably bigger, they stumble upon a river. The river is dark blue and filled with fish. The river leads right to the green blur, which turns out to be a lush oasis with the river flowing into a lake in the center of the oasis. As they check out the oasis, John spots a cave near the top of a very tall sand dune that overlooks the oasis. John climbs the sand dune until he's at the mouth of the cave, and when he looks in, he sees many berry bushes surrounding the opening of the cave, just like his old one. And in the center of the cave is a bed of thick moss, surrounded by fragrant desert flowers. Now John knows that he can sleep peacefully and that he has food for the entire year. He starts to feel the pull of sleep once again. John tells Smeagol to leave him be, and Smeagol mysteriously wanders off as he appeared. John lays down on his new bed of moss and promptly falls back to sleep until winter is over. The end.